I have on the line Francis Hylton, bassist and DJ and member of the Thames River Soul. But I've got to ask you one thing first. Which came first, DJing or bass playing?
Interesting. Well, obviously when I started DJing and when I started playing bass, I was just a beginner, a novice doing my thing. Really and truly, I started with my interest in DJing from sooner. I was always really into, from the 80s, mid-80s hip-hop scene, really into scratching and scratch DJs and breakbeat DJs. So I wanted to be a hip-hop producer before I could play any instrument. So that's my mid-teens. But when I got to 19, then I picked up a bass for £10 and started jamming with people and then started doing gigs pretty quickly. And I just realised, hey, maybe this is something that I can do, you know. So I kind of put the interest in DJing, even though I'd done a few parties as a teenager. I kind of put the interest to one side, but in my 20s I kind of came back to it again. And I was like, no, I really enjoy the whole buying records and the whole DJ culture thing. So I kind of came back to it after getting established on the bass guitar. So it's always one kind of in parallel, but I'm known as a bass player, and most of what I do, or I have done for the last 20 years, has been centered around playing the bass guitar. And I've done, even adding it up since I was a teenager, I've done very little DJing really. But I've been there, I've seen cultures and styles come and go. I haven't got like one of these kind of like 100,000 record collections or anything like that. I've got a fair amount of good stuff that I've collected over the years, but really the focus is on bass guitar.
Now,
almost. Bass
guitar is a fabulous instrument. I know people put it down, it's only got 4 strings or whatever, but it is an incredible instrument. And is this why you got into acid jazz and the jazz funk scene?
Well, I was a lot of the records that were having a renaissance during the acid jazz period, I'd been hearing on pirate radio or through like family friends for years, and I loved funk and jazz funk and soul and hip hop, which was really kind of in its infancy in the mid 80s, as far as records are concerned and live possibilities. So that's always run through my interest in everything. Really, is like the funky side of things. But it was the records before the live. That's what came first for me.
Right. Yeah, you were a member of Galliano, which is a band I remember in the sort of mid-90s, I guess, mid-late 90s?
That's right.
And that was a signed band as well?
Yeah, well, in fact, they were the first band that was signed to a major record label that I ever worked with. So I wasn't the original member. The original bass player who did it for many years was Ernie McCone. And I actually did the last album, which was called Four, the fourth studio album. And I came in just after the album was recorded and did a world tour with them. So I got to see the world for the first time. Never been to Asia before. Went to, had a lot of great experiences with them. And I still see the fellas. In fact, my wife has been working with Ernie recently.
Right.
I saw Val the other day. Still work with her and Citrus Sun. I mean, everybody's still around doing music. So,
And I mean that music, that sort of jazz funk thing, which is something I absolutely loved. It travelled the world, didn't it? It really became big, especially out in Asia and Japan and places like that.
I think that in the UK had a sound of its own. Most of the music that was influencing the acid jazz movement was coming from America. There wasn't, that was the origins of that music. But when you're enjoying something like that from afar, you're bound to come with your own little influence. I think London had a sound. The whole of the UK had a sound. It wasn't just London, but that's where I was living at the time. And I mean, in particular, I was thinking like the brand new heavies. Like,
yes,
there was something. A lot of people said to me when I first started playing that I sound like Andrew Levy. I thought it's interesting because I just think that the way he sounded is kind of like that's how I heard a lot of bass when I first started playing.
Yeah.
I wanted it to just be very, very solid in the bass department, and I wasn't interested in it being very, very flashy. The whole of the music had to feel a certain way, because when I listened to the music from America, it just felt a certain way. And that's how I could get into it without kind of being a taught, studied musician. I just loved the way that it made me feel, and I tried to to bring that across in the music that I was playing and in the bands that I was playing with. And I think that that's really what was happening with most of these bands coming out of London, Galliano included. You know, if you check their records, there are so many influences often from particular. If you know the songs, you think, oh, that bass comes from this, or it's a bit like this, and but often kind of stripped down to its more the rawest kind of form. And it was kind of maybe surprisingly accepted, and just became this thing where the kind of nickname Acid Jazz became a worldwide phenomenon for a while.
Now, it was whilst you were out in Asia, in Tokyo, that you met up first time with the guys from Incognito.
That's right, yeah. So I'd never met Bluey, but obviously I knew Bluey from the Jazz Funk records, you know. And it was actually the night that we recorded a live album in Tokyo, and we got wind that Incognito were going to be in town, and Aswad playing in different venues. But when we came off stage, they were all backstage. The whole of Incognito, the whole of Aswad had turned up backstage at our, you know. So, and I felt a little bit overwhelmed because I only knew one or two people anyway. I think I knew Richard Bailey at the time. But at one point, Bluey just came up to me and just started talking to me in the way that he does. I've seen him do this with other people too. Bluey is this incredible character who just kind of cuts through whatever is going on with you and brings you out. But it becomes interested in you. And, you know, because the whole time I'm thinking, yeah, this is Bluey from Incognito. And he's just chatting to me like, yeah, great gig. I really like, you know, what's that? You're playing, you know, just after me like really basic down to earth stuff, you know. And yeah, so that's an enduring memory. Yeah, that was 1996.
Fantastic, that though. I mean, it was quite a few years though until you actually got together with Incognito. I guess Galliano disbanded, and then you were doing session work, weren't you?
Yeah, so session work, a few. I mean, you know, I did various different things. So I was doing a few things for record companies and TV promos and things like that. I worked with Lyndon David Hall for a number of years. I worked with the Afro-Celt Sound System for a period as well, who are more trance with world influences. And I enjoy doing all of this stuff. I just think, you know, at some point, am I going to be kind of just, you know, for hire, doing all sorts of different styles, or will I get back to the music that I love? And I never seriously thought of one day that I would be playing in Incognito, but the phone rang one day. I left my phone at home by mistake, and when I got in, there were missed calls from Bluey.
Oh no!
And yeah, he just said, "Do you want to come on tour with us? We're going to Indonesia in like 2 weeks' time." I was like, "Yeah, I'll come." Great. And when we were away, he then asked if I wanted to join the band permanently. So yeah,
fantastic. What a thing to do, though. I mean. It must have been great for you, you know, sort of being accepted into a band like Incognito, who are, you know, recognised as one of the top jazz funk bands ever in the UK, anyway.
Well, I realised that I had big shoes to fill. In that, I came in after Julian Crampton, who's like he was one of the first players in the UK that I was ever aware of when I started to play bass guitar, and also Randy Hope Taylor as well. I mean, you know, he's on the majority of the biggest selling Incognito songs from the mid 90s. But funnily enough, that feeling of like I've got big shoes to fill, I mean, that feeling got bigger and bigger for about a year. It didn't diminish.
No.
I kind of started like, yeah, I can do this. And as time went on, I guess as we traveled the world and did more stuff, and I just kind of thought, you know, I lost a little bit of confidence to begin with. I felt like maybe, you know, it wasn't really, because the thing with Incognito, like, I did know the Jazz Funk album, but that was from the early 80s, and it had a particular sound to it, and I saw them once in 1991 in Manchester, and the sound had got a lot more polished. There were more vocals. I mean, there wasn't a lot of vocals, but there was more vocals in it, and I wasn't really staying totally abreast of what the band was doing musically. And so when I joined, I was like, all right, it's a bit like this. You know, it's different on stage to it is on the record. And there was quite a lot of adjusting to do. And, you know, I'm there with these monster players. Like the horn players are always, I mean, we have lots of people coming and going. I'm always amazed by the quality of UK horn players. You can come in, sight read the set, you know, perfectly, do a cracking solo, you know, for one gig. See you later. We've had amazing rhythm section players, you know, incredible singers. And I just felt like, oh, you know, over time, I started to get a bit paranoid. Like, am I really at the level of these guys, you know? And I don't think that's really why I was there in the first place. I wasn't there to be like, because I was the best bass player in London or anything like that. I think that, I'd met Bluey a few times, and we'd actually been to Japan once before as well in 2000, I think it was. So I knew Bluey quite well, and he came to some of the gigs that I was doing with Spacek, another band that I was in, and I think that he does my vibe.
Yeah.
And thought, I can work with this guy. I can see that, he's had so many musicians come his way on different instruments, and he can kind of see through kind of whatever you're giving off. He can and just go, yeah, I think somebody's got the potential. I think I can do something with them, or they're coming from a place that I can really respect.
Yeah.
And I have to rate Bluey for kind of having the confidence in me, because, as I said, I had the confidence to begin with, and then it kind of fell off for about a year, and then slowly I called it back, and now I kind of, yeah, I'm just a grown man now. At 47, I can handle it now.
Now, I was just looking at the list of people that you have played with and recorded with. People like Chaka Khan, Jocelyn Brown, CeeLo Green, Karen White, Ray Parker Jr. The list just goes on. Gloria Gaynor. The list goes on and on and on. Do you ever get? I mean, obviously, you were sort of saying there that you a bit overwhelmed playing Incognito, but you ever get starstruck when you're sort of standing next to or standing behind Chaka Khan?
It's a funny one, really. When the moment we start playing, all I'm thinking about is music.
Yeah.
I'm not even thinking about the bass. I'm thinking about the music. Obviously, things can go wrong on stage, and you have to go and sort it out and what have you. But sometimes I can play with somebody, and I kind of forget who it is. And this is the weird thing with Chaka Khan in particular. I just remember when I was in my early teens, I used to listen to the Froggies radio show on the radio at night. I absolutely loved it. I'd take loads of shows and learnt loads about music from listening to him. And I remember he'd do these mixes of different artists. He'd have like The System, and here's a mix of The System for like the song, Brass Construction, Chaka Khan. And this one Chaka Khan mix that he did, it went into I Know You, I Live You. And I'd never heard the song before. And he only played about 2 minutes of it before he got to I'm Every Woman, I think it was. But I just loved this. And eventually I bought the record, and I loved what was going on in this record before I even started playing bass. So at one point, I think it was the first time that we did a set with Chaka, and that song was in the set. We start playing it, and I play one of the licks that I've heard a million times. It's in the first verse. Anthony Jackson's playing bass on it, and she kind of turns around and points at me as I play the lick. And it kind of brought everything with a kind of like a smile on her face, or like almost like, ooh, that's it,
Yeah.
Wow. This is really weird. I had no idea. I loved music as a teenager. I wanted to be a hip hop producer. I thought, you don't need to learn an instrument. That was kind of like an afterthought, buying a bass guitar, when I did actually buy it. And now I'm here with the person who sang the song, Chaka Khan, absolute legend.
Yeah.
Just playing, this is kind of interesting. This is you can't kind of design this stuff exactly to be this way.
No.
I guess you create your own luck, and at the end of the day, I do realise that I'm very, very lucky to be up there with all these people. Ray Parker Jr., just incredible. Leon Ware, once again, just like a hero of mine from his songwriting. It's incredible.
Brilliant. Now, your influences, I'm reading that as well. And you've got Robert Coolbell, Marcus Miller, Bernard Edwards. These are real luminaries. But Prince, now that quite surprised me, having Prince in there. I'm
surprised that you're surprised.
No, I always think of him as an amazing guitarist, and a very underrated guitarist.
Yeah, perhaps.
But I would never sort of think of him as an inspiration for a bassist.
Well, we could have a whole conversation about Prince, so I'll just keep it low. Just from a bass point of view, he actually plays. There's a style that Prince played with. There's a way that he used to thump the bass that's on things like, even on Head from the Dirty Mind album. Mm-hmm. There's Irresistible Bitch as well, which I think was the B-side to Let's Pretend We're Married. I've got 3 copies of that, by the way. I just realised the other day I've got 3 copies. I thought I had 2, I've got 3. Basically, he's thumping, and it's kind of like somebody grumbling or grunting, but in time with rhythm. So you don't hear loads of notes. You hear all this movement in the bass part. And I know other people thump the bass, but the way that Prince used to do it, when I hear somebody else doing it, I instantly think of Prince. And that's just talking about his bass playing, let alone some of the lines he did. Like the bass line on Let's Work is one of my favourites. I used to play that all the time when I first started playing bass. And then there's all these other elements to his artistry as a musician.
Yes.
And also what he presented as an artist. I mean, one of the first people I ever got into seriously was David Bowie.
Yeah.
And he had, once again, some great music, some great musicians involved. But I loved the way that some of his music kind of unnerved me and got under my skin a little bit. And I think Prince, maybe not so much musically, but I think that his whole persona and kind of changing his his image every album, what have you. I think that you've got to give it up to somebody to have that amount of to be able to change themselves and reinvent themselves all the time, like David Bowie, like Madonna, in fact, as well.
Yeah,
I think Prince is amazing. Really, really. Yeah, I wish that I'd seen him more recently. I haven't seen him since the 90s.
Yeah. It's sad loss, great loss.
Yeah.
On to Thames River Soul.
Yeah.
Now it's a collective. One of the singers that is on there, well, two of them actually, Kenny Thomas and Omar, are both guys I've always thought were so underappreciated in the UK.
I do too. Definitely.
Now that sound that you guys have got on that EP, the one that I've been playing, is just brilliant. Because it is that old jazz funk, but right up to date. Were you guys aware of what was happening when you were putting that together?
Well, just to give it a little bit of a background of kind of how those recordings really came together. So Thames River Soul is ultimately three of us. It's Francesca Mendelia on drums and Francisco Salas on guitar, and myself. Obviously, we do play various instruments, but for those recordings, there were other people involved too. And Blue, in fact, basically produced those tracks. Right. So we had like this communal sound. We work together all the time in Citrus Sun and Incognito. But there's a way that we work which is pretty quick. And but this was different from the material that we normally do in those bands. And I mean, for a start, when I actually heard Omar's finished voice on it, even though I knew he was going to be on it, it just reminded me of the uniqueness of that guy as an artist. That he just sings things I'm not expecting. And put it this way, we recorded the music, so I already knew what they sounded like, and it was a cover version of Billy Preston, so I knew what the song was supposed to go like. Yet he still can add these little harmonies and these little directions that once again nobody else sounds like him. So that was I felt really privileged in that regard. With the Love Times Love, I love the way that Kenny sounds on that record. Really, he's got a fine voice anyway, but once again, this is the cover version. We've heard George Benson's version, for a long time. Which is why for the music it was important that we actually went in a slightly different direction with the harmony and the arrangement. But once again, Kenny just laces that tune with just this beautiful. It's light, not lightweight, but just kind of the way that it fits with the music that we've created. I think it's fantastic on that record.
It is.
So really, the whole end result of that record was a pleasant surprise, I'd say. I think it really, really sounds good. I'm glad that you're feeling it out there in Spain. So.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah. Will there be another one? Will there be another, or is that?
Well, as you may have noticed, that EP came out around about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And at the time, we knew we were busy. We knew that it would be an issue in getting another version done. We have in that time period had at least 2 time periods marked out that we thought maybe we could get together and record a volume 2 and a volume 3. It makes sense to do it all at once, right?
Yeah.
And we've just had bad luck. We've had other bookings come in, other things, commitments in the studio, which have meant that we've had to give it a back seat. And right now it's actually kind of like it's doing my head in a little bit. So many people are asking about it. I'm like, look, let's do this. Let's prioritize it more. Easier said than done. I think and I hope that there will be at least one other volume. I mean, that was the intention really, was to kind of follow it up with some more.
Good.
And live, the only gigs that we've done really have been kind of private parties, a couple of little things that we've done, added on to Citrus Sun's gig, where we get to play a couple of songs from the EP. But yeah, no, I really hope that we can do it. You see, one of the problems is, and once again, I don't know if you know this, but Francesco lives in London. And at one point, we all lived in London. I now live out in Leighton Buzzard. I'm out of town now myself, but it's not a million miles away.
No.
Francisco lives in Lisbon. He moved out there, and that kind of does make it a little bit difficult to get together to do something. With the internet, we can just fly files to each other. We've all got little setups that we can do stuff with. But I think to keep the spirit of it as it should be and consistent with the first EP, I think it would be best if we put the initial rhythm tracks down together, even if we can only get a few days for that. You know, we don't have the luxury of like saying, okay, let's just hire the studio out in wherever for 3 weeks, and you know, we can't do that. It's 2019. I'm not sure who can.
No.
So let's see. You know, I mean, I'll keep you posted.
Please.
But yeah, I hope that we can get something at least conceived by the end of the year, even if it means we're recording next year, because we're quite busy with Incog now. From next month onwards, we're kind of out of it until January now. So
yeah, it's touring, isn't it?
Yeah. We've got America. We're going to Mexico, I think, as well, and Japan. Lots of European dates. Yeah, we're flat out. We've also got the 40th anniversary of Incognito. We've got a gig in December.
Good grief!
To celebrate 4 years of Incognito. Yeah,
that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I can't believe it either. I turned 47 the other day, and I just think, look, when I was just loving Parisian Girl, the first single, you know, it was. I think it was a jingle on the Radio London or something like that. Right? I used to hear it periodically. You know, I was only like 10 or something, 10 or 11, or you know, those ages. You know.
Yeah. And there you are playing in the band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, look, Francis, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
You're welcome, Lee.
I wish you all the best with the tour.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, will you get on and do some Thames River Soul stuff for us, please?
That's what we need. We need some constructive nagging.
All right. Look, thank you very much, sir. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you. And also, can I just thank all your listeners for showing your support, getting back to the station, and letting them know that they're feeling the tracks. We really appreciate it. And I want to do right by you. So, yeah, keep nagging us, and there'll be a volume 2 and a 3, hopefully, before long.
Cool. Get on with it.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye now.